Hey there, Jessica.
Hey.
How you doing? Hello, I'm Micheal Scott. I'm an impression of Micheal Scott to open this episode because we're talking about The Office. No, we're not doing that. Not doing that again. So, took a week off.
Yep.
Didn't plan it. I'm back to school. I'm back to school to show my dad I'm not a fool. Remember that?
Just like Rodney Dangerfield.
Yes, but I was quoting Billy Madison.
Sure.
Remember when he's sitting outside for the bus?
Yes.
He sings that song. I wasn't going to do a wackety Adam Sandler voice because I don't. We're taking a break from the wacky character voices.
But I picked an earlier back to school joke.
Yeah, what the heck? I'm the older one. I'm the one who's 50 years old. I should remember that movie, not you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sadie Hawkins Pod.
Hello. So as I was saying, I'm going back to school, and last week things just got intense. Even this week things are intense, but I'm like, we can't skip another week.
We gotta give the people what they want.
So, yeah, I got a big financial. I'm going back to school for more accounting and finance. And it's a lot of it's not even like the most. I'm only taking 2 courses because I'm working full time, and we have this podcast, which in it of itself is a full-time experience for you, the fans, the listeners out there. So it's very important to keep my course load light. But yeah, it's been intense, and I was working on schoolwork right up until we started recording. So I apologize. Last week things were just too much. It was actually a Wednesday night, and we hadn't recorded yet. And I'm I guess we're just not recording this week.
We kept going back and forth on it, and I was like, do you need the week off? And Danny was finally like, yeah, yes. I do. And I was like, that's totally fine. I'm sure everybody will understand.
Yeah. So we're back this week. I'm just setting things up. We have some voicemails. But this week we're talking about kind of an oddity in our list of Relient K songs. It's the only one that's like the situation that this song is. We're doing the cover of the Office theme song that Relient K only did live. And this is the only song that we've picked that's on our list that's a song that only exists live. There's tons of, random covers that Relient K has done over the years just for shows that exist on YouTube, but we're not doing an episode for a song just because it's on YouTube. It has to be, except for this one we're doing this week, it would normally have to be a studio track or a deep cut, or we're even going to do some songs that are unreleased songs that were leaked on the internet, but they're technically studio tracks. This is the only song that we chose to put on the list that is a concert-only song that was never officially released and only exists in YouTube videos. It's the only situation like that we're doing on this podcast.
Because they added their own original lyrics to the theme song.
Exactly. If it was just the Office theme song, we're also not doing an episode for Lose Yourself, right?
Right.
That's, in its way, that's a theme song to the Eminem movie. 8 Mile. Jessica was just about to say it. I took the words out of her mouth. So, they famously did a cover of Lose Yourself for a year or two. We're not doing an episode on that. This is just a one-time situation. And since we had just done Charles in Charge a couple weeks ago, 2 episodes ago, we were let's cleanse ourselves of the whole Charles in Charge situation.
Nothing bad has come out about anybody on The Office yet.
Exactly.
Give it another 20 years.
Everyone on The Office is so wholesome. You know what I mean? Everything, even though the show itself has not always been wholesome. You know what I mean?
There's some episodes not aged so well.
No, there's individual scenes in in ableist language and sexual politic language and all these kind of things that are oof, you don't say that anymore. You don't make comedy out of that. At least not on a prime time like feel good television show level. Like maybe there's some stuff there you'd still say on like some like hard-edged animated sitcom or like you know what I mean, like an HBO show or something like that.
Sure.
But The Office was such a wide appeal, feel good show, and but it wasn't even like. We'll get into it.
I was going to say, before we get into it, top of the show business.
So, one thing I've been meaning to mention for weeks and weeks and weeks, like probably over 4 weeks. I don't know how long it's been now because we're still feeling the time.
You're so flustered.
Yes, I am. It's still basically 2020, so what is time anymore? But I just wanted to mention, we went to the Jimmy Eat Pod meetup. And we had a meeting of the podcasters. So Jimmy Eat Pod had a meetup, like I'm talking 4 or 5 weeks ago now, and it was at Applebee's, and there's really only like 2 Applebee's in all of Los Angeles anymore. So they picked Chatsworth, which is like north. It's about as north as you can get, I guess. Still technically in Los Angeles County, and because it's like halfway between David and Justin, right? So that they picked that one. We went all the way up to that Applebee's, had a great time. We ducked out early. The night kept going after we left. We had other plans that night, but it was great. We got pictures of all the podcast hosts that were there that night, which was the 4 of us, you, me, and them, and the 2 of them. And then like the next week, if people might remember a couple podcasts ago, David Park called up and was like, we're going to get sushi at this place, because we had raved about the sushi in Florida on the Treasure Coast and how amazing it was.
It wasn't the next week. It was the next night.
Oh, it was the next night.
Yeah.
That's right. So we had a big David Park Jimmy Eat Pod weekend, and I've been completely forgetting to mention it. Sometimes it's been on my top of the show notes, and I've just like passed over it and forgotten. So
good times.
Good times. You said that like
sushi was lovely.
Yes. I just love the way you went. Good times. It was like the delicious dish, especially because you have the headphones on and you leaned into the microphone.
Delicious dish is so good. It's one of my favorites.
I wonder what the delicious dish characters are doing today. Like, they must have a podcast. Like, one of 2 things. They either still work for public radio, because like people who work for public radio seem to stay there forever.
Sure.
Or they don't work for public radio anymore and they went on and had their own podcast. Even if they still work for public radio, they have their own Delicious Dish podcast now.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember like when we first started this podcast and I was really trying to actually work on my voice and like make me sound better and not like how I just always sound. I was trying to like harness that sort of like soft NPR voice. Mm-hmm. So if you go back, I think I'm a little more subdued in the first few episodes.
Right.
And I sound like the Delicious Dish ladies.
Good times.
Good times.
Well, we do have voicemails. Since what did we do last time? What was the song? It's been 2 weeks.
Who can remember?
Maybe someone will remind us. So here's a voicemail from somebody. I can't tell from the Google Translate who it is.
Good morning. Hey guys. I wanted to give you a call because you know how I do. I'm listening to episode 76. Everything will be just fine. And Daniel just left his voicemail about like Narnia and Harry Potter, and then you guys got off on a tangent about Harry Potter and theology. It reminded me that when I was a teenager, I was obsessed with Harry Potter, just obsessed. But I was also raised in a very Christian environment, and so I couldn't exactly like be the biggest Harry Potter fan that I wanted to be. But I could read a couple of the books, like the first couple books, without really getting in trouble. But my aunt, who was a pastor, we went up to visit her one summer, and she literally bought me a T-shirt that said, "Jesus is the Potter, not Harry." And it had, like, almost like, the twinkling that you see in artwork for Harry Potter and, like, the little sparkles and stuff. very, like, mystical looking. And so I thought that was hilarious. But yeah, I wore that all the time. But at the same time, you'd see me, like, reading the first Harry Potter book while wearing the t-shirt. And the other thing was Daniel said something about not liking the weather. Wait 5 minutes or something. Well, in Florida, which I'm sure Jessica remembers, and probably Danny, we always say if you don't like the weather, either 1, wait 5 minutes, or 2, walk across the street. So, happy almost fall, y'all. Cool. Okay. Bye.
Well, it is fall now, so, or is it technically like the fall equinox yet? I don't know. Yeah, I think it might still technically be summer, because summer goes into September.
I kind of want that shirt just to wear it around, like, ironically, but I don't understand it. Jesus was the potter, not Harry. What does that mean? What is being a potter?
Because, no, he was a carpenter.
Yeah.
Jesus was a carpenter and a shepherd of men, but he was not a potter, unless there's some, like, pot analogy, simile in the Bible that
I don't know
Christ gave us.
Or, like, he goes around planting flowers in pots or something.
Or he goes around like Link, and he just starts smashing pots and collecting rupees and hearts from them.
But you wouldn't necessarily be a potter if you were doing that. I feel like you have to be doing something more productive with a pot that is, like, creating it or planting something into it.
Maybe they just meant Jesus is the wizard.
Oh, like, no.
Harry Potter is a wizard. Jesus is the real wizard. There's no such thing as white magic unless it's Jesus performing it.
You're a wizard, Jesus. Yeah. This is my Hagrid. Danny couldn't get out one of his bad impressions this week, so I'm doing it instead.
Is it, that thing about, like, wait 5 minutes for the weather to change? Like, every town, every geography seems to have that. Like, I don't know where it actually started. I'm sure if there was someone's ever done an investigation on that turn of phrase, maybe they'd find it goes back like hundreds of years or something to some specific. Because people say that about Boston, and people say that about Chicago, and people say that about all kinds of places.
And yet, you and I have lived coast to coast in many cities across this great land of ours. Mm-hmm. And have we ever lived anywhere other than Florida where it'll just start raining for a minute and then, like, go away?
Deserving for it. Like, Boston people used to say that. Like, I heard that phrase growing up. Oh, I don't like the weather in Boston. Wait 5 minutes. But really, it's not that bad. It's not like that, really.
It's like maybe the next day.
Like, maybe the next day it's going to snow, and the day after that it'll be, like, warm enough to melt the snow. But that's not really as drastic as Florida.
Where else do you get sun showers? Like, in Florida, it'll just be, like, hot as all get out and super sunny, and it'll just start raining, and it'll last for, like, 5 minutes and then stop. And or, like, sometimes in the summer it lasts an hour and then stops. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think Florida is probably the most deserving of that. Although they don't have the wide climate, like, you don't get the snow and the freezing. Well, it still gets cold in Florida.
It's cold.
It gets cold, but you don't get the freezing temperatures.
It's hurricanes?
Maybe in the north, maybe in the Panhandle. Well, we appreciate that phone call, Lindy. Thank you very much. We have 2 more newer voicemails, so let's hear these.
Hey guys, it's Jake. I actually called in and was on the last episode, and that was the first episode of the podcast I've ever listened to, but I'm probably going to keep listening. I think you got a long-time listener here, so kudos to that. Anyway, on your last show, you guys talked about episodes that are on streaming services that are clearly not in the right order, and I've noticed that too and did a little research, and I guess there's a ton of reasons for it. Sometimes the shows are simply not curated well and they're released and nobody is simply taking the time to rearrange them the right way. Other times, shows that are more recent get released in the wrong order because certain episodes aren't done filming yet, so they have to release the ones that are done just because. So it's really strange. For example, in Community, there's a really funny joke that was released that didn't land because the original bit hadn't happened yet. So if you watch the following episodes after that joke, it makes more sense because it's just really confusing. So a lot of reasons for it, but it's a common issue, especially with the older shows. Thanks so much for everything you do. I love Relient K, and looking forward to future episodes.
Thanks, Jake, and thanks for that Parker promo. Jake from State Farm.
Oh, gotcha. I was like, I know what the Parker promo is, but I forgot that the guy's name is Jake from State Farm. Yeah, like, I think, the episode's out of order. I heard this voicemail, like, 2 weeks ago now when it first came in, and it got my mind going on other situations like that. But yeah, I think there's, like, another thing, like, we just know from being in film production and stuff, although we've never worked on a television show, but just knowing it is that, like, the production order can deliberately be different from airing order.
Yeah.
Because it can, like, because they basically start scheduling and budgeting a whole season together ahead of time. It's not like they only work on one episode for a week and finish it and then move on to the next episode. Some shows do obviously work like that, but other shows can be doing scenes for 2 weeks from now while they're doing a scene for this week and then a scene from 3 weeks from now. So, like, there's episode order and there's production order, and they can be deliberately backwards, like all of those cop shows and stuff like that where they need to actually go in order because there's a deliberate whatever, who cares, it doesn't even matter, and another situation. Jessica's like, what happened?
I'm like, wait, the way you trailed off, I'm like, are we leaving this in? Are you cutting this out?
We'll just leave it in.
You faded.
I just realized I was basically I realized I was basically just repeating what Jake said on the phone call, more or less, like, and barely adding to it. So I just kind of tuned out of my own prattling on. With
shooting, like, you have to work around actor schedules and, other, like, director schedules and, if you're going on location schedules and all that stuff. There's a lot to organize. So.
And then, like, another thing I was thinking of to build on what Jake is saying, that, like, sometimes the airing order as it originally happened on television might have happened that way, but that wasn't the intended order of neither the production nor the intended airing order. Like, sometimes, like he's saying, episodes, there's an X-Files episode where they switch the order.
Yeah, we talked about this already.
Yeah,
we already did this.
But in our real lives. Because after this voicemail was called up, I heard it.
I'm like so confused. I'm like, no, we did this on the podcast last week, Dan. Why are you going into this right now?
We did it when we were driving in the car, and you were like, "What's on your mind?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm thinking about the X-Files because of this phone call we got 2 weeks ago now."
Okay, sorry. Continue.
There's an episode of the X-Files where there's basically a cancer vampire. Like, he eats people, he has to kill people to eat cancer because that's what he survives on, right? And this episode, at the end of it, he tries to kill Scully. So you're like, oh, Scully has cancer from all of her alien abductions. From her alien abduction, she has some sort of cancer. And that's how you find out that happened. Now, if you watch a show on streaming, which is in the order it's originally intended, the next episode she's at the doctor. But if you watch the show at the time, the next episode is this one where, like, she gets kind of, like, spaced out and takes some time off from the X-Files and goes and basically has a one night stand with a guy just for the heck of it. And it turns out that guy has a talking evil tattoo.
Right.
But if you saw these episodes in the order when they originally aired, you would think cancer vampire, she finds out she has cancer. Next episode, she's kind of like doesn't want to work and goes and has a one night stand with this guy that also happens to be a killer.
Still makes sense.
Because you think, like, oh, she might have cancer and she's not sure and she's waiting for the results, and she goes to, like, try to live her life, and then in the next episode she gets the test results. But that wasn't the order it was intended. They just wanted this one episode where that completely apropos of nothing, Scully, like, wants to go sow her wild oats. You know what I mean? Because they're like, oh, the women characters in these kind of shows don't normally do that, so let's do that for this episode. But airing it after the episode, where it's hinted that she might have cancer, completely changed the context. And it took, like, forever for episode orders to understand online, like episode guides to understand this is not the way these 3 episodes were meant to air.
Right, and the reason why they aired it that way.
Because of the Super Bowl. Because they decided that the cancer vampire episode kind of had a more interesting high concept to air after the Super Bowl that would catch people's attention than guy with a talking tattoo. Which they both sound interesting, but the talking tattoo guy is not like that. It's not a big science fiction idea. It turns out it's just like there was a drug in his ink that kind of makes him go crazy, whereas Cancer Vampire, actual supernatural being.
I mean, I know every guy I've ever had a one-night stand with has had a talking tattoo. I thought that was just standard.
I don't need to hear about this. Thank you very much. I don't need you to remind me that I used to have a talking tattoo.
Yeah, lots of shows air out of order, like Freaks and Geeks. I don't know if it aired out of order. I feel like it aired in order, but I didn't watch it, I watched it while it was happening, but in syndication. So I watched Freaks and Geeks on Fox Family while it was still airing originally on, I don't know, I guess regular Fox. Mm-hmm. And I watched it every week after State of Grace in order. And so when I got the DVD set, which actually I have two DVD sets because it's my favorite show. Mm-hmm. So when I got each of the DVD sets, they're out of order.
Wasn't
and it's
the second
so
DVD
frustrating.
set in order?
The second one might be in order.
I think that's why we bought the second one, because the second one was like the pristine version where they put them in order.
And
properly.
I think when it was on Netflix, it was also out of order. So it's like you're watching and you're like, for some reasons, like Lindsay and Nick are just suddenly together. And then like they're not together in the next episode. And then they get together in the one after that. And then they're like not together again. And you're like, what is going on?
All this conversation works for this episode because we're talking about television again this week. So this works out.
There we go.
Well, we have another voicemail. So let's hear this one.
What's up, guys? It's Daniel. Just had a quick note. So When I Go Down obviously has a couple key changes in it.
When I Go Down, that's what we talked about last week. We talked about When I Go Down and we had Zeke Bauer on.
Yeah,
that feels like it was months ago, but it was only 2 weeks ago.
And it's just interesting that, like, outside of Marigold, the only, like, actual album songs that Relient K has that change keys are the closing songs from albums 3 through 6. So, Jefferson Airplane, When I Go Down, crap.
And then he didn't call back. But this is the end if you want it. I must be another one. Albums 1 through 6, right? And then,
Deathbed's in there somewhere.
Yeah, Deathbed. There's probably 25 key changes. I'm sure there isn't, but it's such a long song. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't realize that. That's pretty cool that I guess Matt Thiessen saves key changes for special occasions.
Nancy Drew, or is it K-Car?
K-Car. So is there a key change in K-Car? I don't know. We'll have to get a call back from Daniel to let us know if that was one of them. Because we're not talking about K-Car this week. We're talking about the Office theme song as performed by Relient K, never recorded in the studio, although we have something to discuss about that when we get to covers. Yeah, and with extra added lyrics. So Jessica, I guess we can follow the same format that we do. This is kind of a cover, like Charles in Charge, like any K for Karaoke song that we would do. We can kind of like start with the original and then work our way towards Relient K. Do you want to do it that way? Do you want to talk about The Office and the Office theme song and then get to Relient K's lyrics?
Sure.
So what do you think of The Office?
Well, you and I love The Office. Mm-hmm. So the Office, the U.S. Office, ran for 9 seasons, although who really watches after Jim and Pam's wedding? Like, come on.
And who really watches season 1?
Like, I do. I like season 1.
You like season 1?
Yeah, it kind of follows the UK one a little more and then, like, kind of diverges off into its own thing. But, yeah.
Because episode 1, the first episode of the U.S. Office is the only one that's not a shot-for-shot remake, but the only one that uses a script from the original Office. Like, if you watch the first episode of the original Office and you watch the first episode of the U.S. one, they're the same basic thing with minor changes for, slight character changes that happen. And all the character templates are there. They're all built up on, right? Like, one of the only character templates that I remember they completely didn't follow from the shift to the US version is that Mindy Kaling's character in the UK office, she's like the daughter of a friend of the boss. So he has like a certain... So David Brent is the boss character in the original office. He's got like this certain like nobody sexually harass her. Like he tries to act fatherly to her, but he's not really capable of it because he's such a dork. He's such like a problematic guy that he tries to be like that, but he can't really because he's always saying inappropriate things to other people anyway. But that character trait, that's the only thing from both pilots that's completely not matched up at all. Like Mindy Kaling's character and the character that she represents in the UK office, that is completely not the same. Although there's still the BJ Novak, Mindy Kaling, like I don't remember all these characters' names anymore. But the fact that BJ Novak and Mindy Kaling's characters have an on-again, off-again thing, that does slightly exist for those same characters in the UK version.
Yeah. What's your favorite episode, Dan?
Of the American Office?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever actually... Like, I've loved watching the show, but I don't think since it ended I've watched that much of it, except when, like, we're on an airplane or something. So I don't think I've ever actually... Like, I don't remember having a specific favorite episode. And this is also a show that you would put on all the time.
Yeah.
Just as background noise.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't necessarily think to put the show on as background noise. Like, this is like 30 Rock for me, where, like, I loved it at the time, and I would quote it, and I'll quote it when I think of a relevant quote, but I don't really go back and watch 30 Rock anymore. 30 Rock, which definitely has problematic stuff in it that people have tried to cancel. Like, well, not cancel, because in television, hey... Cancel culture's always been around. Just ask all those network bigwigs. They're always canceling good shows.
So my favorite episode
There's a dog playing upstairs.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's getting picked up.
Yeah, if you can hear that.
It's not April. It's the upstairs neighbor's dog.
And this actually does come after Jim and Pam's wedding, but it's the murder mystery one.
Right,
I love that one. I rewatch that one all the time, and also Fun Run, because it's where Jim and Pam are officially together. So we loved this show and watched it together while it was airing. And actually, for our wedding, we had a wedding shower that your family kind of threw for us in Boston.
Right.
And my cousins who live in Chicago flew out for it because we're all very close. And they actually were like my three like lead bridesmaid together. My three maids / matrons of honor. And so we sort of went, and it was a surprise to me that they were coming. And so after that, we did sort of like a pseudo bachelorette night kind of thing, but in our own special way. So we're all obsessed with The Office. So we went to Chili's.
Right.
And definitely had like margaritas, and we're like, I feel God in this Chili's tonight. And yeah, it's good times. And then
it's so cute.
At our reception, after our reception, we had like an after party back at the hotel because we had like a massive suite for like everybody to just hang out in, like right next to our room. And after I changed out of my dress, I got into my replica like Field Day Scranton shirt.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, which that's the episode where Jim and Pam find out that they're pregnant.
Oh, okay.
And they do the Slumdog Millionaire thing. Micheal Scott and my gosh, I'm blanking on her name now. The lady he ends up with. Anyways, who's just like female Micheal Scott. Anyhow.
Right.
Good stuff.
We should have had like a character cheat sheet.
I know,
to remind
right?
us of all these things. I did not bother going back to rewatch any of The Office. Like I said, I liked it at the time, and I can't index all of it or most of it in my mind. But if something just reminds me of a scene from The Office, I'll be able to pull up the reference. It's not like The Simpsons, where I can actually like recite episodes
right
verbatim, basically. I used to watch, when we met in film school, I was watching the UK Office at the time. Because I don't know how I discovered it, I think like at the library or something, like, oh, I've heard of this show. And I think maybe the American version had just started at the time. Did you have what year it started there?
Let me pull it up.
So I think the US version might have just been announced or was just starting, because this would have been 2006, right? So I was watching the UK office at the time from the library, really enjoying it. No baggage for who Ricky Gervais was at the time, right? Because he's obnoxious in hindsight. But then I took my. Do you have the year there?
Yeah, the U.S. office started March 24th, 2005.
Okay, so what it started. So the American version had just started, and that must have been why I checked out the UK version. So I checked out the UK version, and it ended up influencing one of the scripts I wrote that year, because you could write scripts and submit them for different other teams of film students to make, and that's how I had that script that was set in an office. And the thing was, Office Space was a big deal at the time.
Also called Jake.
That's
Bringing it
right.
full circle here, Dan.
I had no title, and I just picked the name Jake, literally because of Less Than Jake. I couldn't think of a name, so I just called the character Jake.
That's adorable.
And so I wrote this script that was influenced by the UK office, which was not that big an influence on people overall at the time. So I felt really cool for knowing this thing that was not that well known in 2005. Office Space was a big point of reference for film students and people, but I was not referencing Office Space, but everybody thought it was an Office Space ripoff or whatever because of Office Space. But I did not really love Office Space. I like it. There's certain stuff I like in it more than others, but I was I never actually worked in an office, so I was more making. And there's definitely a tonal difference between. There's similarities, but between Office Space and the Office, the UK office, there's Office Space is kind of a higher concept thing. He gets confidence because his hypnotist has a heart attack in the middle of his session. Have you ever seen the Office Space?
I have. I don't remember that part of it.
That's the whole basis. And that's it's not magical. It's not magical realism, but there is a certain amount of disbelief. There is a certain amount of high concept there, as opposed to just a story about people in an office having anti-humor situations. You know what I mean? Office Space, he goes to a hypnotist therapist guy, and he tells him, he hypnotizes him and says, you'll have no more fear or anything. And he's about to, remove it, because the idea is just have him feel no fear for a second, and he's about to bring him out of the thing. But then the hypnotist has a heart attack right then. So suddenly he has no more fear of his boss and of being late and of being thought of badly. So that's the whole point of Office Space.
Now, Dan, can you tell me, star of Office Space, is that the guy from Band of Brothers or the guy from Early Edition?
No, I can't tell you that.
Band of Brothers.
Right.
Not Kyle Chandler.
Okay, no, I can kind of see it because, the Office Space guy and the Band of Brothers guy, he is more comedic. And Kyle Chandler does not have that comedic bent to it. If I think of Early Edition and I think of Friday Night Lights, he is a bit more of a stoic, dad-like character.
Yeah.
Whereas Ron Livingston from Office Space, he is more comedic. So there's that difference. But this has been a point forever that I can't tell the difference between Ron Livingston. And it's not one of those things there was always those kind of analogs of people that kind of get mixed up, what's their names?
Exactly.
No, one of them just passed Bill Pullman and Bill Paxton. People mix them up because of their names, but I can tell.
They don't even look alike, though.
Yeah, but I also remember Kirsten Dunst and Reese Witherspoon used to be mixed up all the time, and you wouldn't really mix them up anymore. Mm-hmm. But at the time, you can kind of see because they were playing similar roles. Ron Livingston and Kyle Chandler, I can't differentiate them. They are the same person. This must be what it's like to have face blindness. When you can't tell somebody's face. That's what I feel when I think of those two actors. So The Office, I wrote that script for film school, and it was a whole horrible situation, which I don't even feel like getting into. Basically, the people who, because you would write a script and you'd submit it to the instructors, and it would get put, and get voted on, and it would get produced by other producing teams of students, because they didn't want the writers working on their own movies. Like, you'd all get teamed up into teams that would produce a short film. And so my script gets handed off to these people, and they just rewrite the whole thing, except for one scene. And they add all these... They make it more Office Space-ish.
They made it very wackety-schmackety.
They made it way more wackety-schnackety, whereas mine was, like, more grounded and about, like...
With sight gags like yoga hosers and things like that.
Yeah, like cutaways, like The Simpsons, like post-Family Guy. More like Family Guy.
Yeah, there you go.
Like, The Simpsons had cutaways for a time, but it's like Family Guy that really pushed the cutaway thing.
And it would like freeze frame, and then like an arrow would pop up, and they'd be like pointing at something in the background or whatever, and then like text would appear on screen, and they'd say whatever. Anyways,
so the premise. Now I want to get into it a little bit.
Oh no!
So the story of this script that I wrote, because it's 2005, so it's still relatively recent to concepts like the .com boom or whatever, right? And it was about a guy who, out of high school, became a millionaire because he was on the ground floor of a .com thing. Like, not an Apple, but like a .com thing. Not a technology, but a website boom. And he became a millionaire overnight, and the company was... And then now he's got to work... It's 2004 in my script. Now he's got to work in a regular job for the first time ever because, like, he doesn't make money from that company anymore. It's completely gone. So it's like this person who never worked a day in his life trying to figure out... But he's still like a tech intelligent guy, and that's the concept of the thing. And he has no social ability because he had all this money from right after high school, but he's an intelligent and tech minded and all this stuff. That's the script. And then comedy ensues, and it's a little whatever, I don't know, I literally stole jokes from The Simpsons or whatever, like dialogue things, because I just didn't whatever. And he makes friends with one girl there who kind of like is nice to him and gets him, and like they talk and they're like friends, and it's not like a I want to bang you thing. It's just like, oh, he's made a connection with a friend in the workplace for the first time. Well, of course, the producing team of students that got the script, they're like, well, she's the girl, so obviously he wants to bang her. And whoever wrote this script forgot to put that into
her. Yeah, it was unfortunate.
Because the whole point was about like human connection. The whole point was about like lacking the social ability. I realized that was basically my story. Except that like I made up this whole thing about him being a millionaire or whatever, and that's why he doesn't have social connections. Like, yeah, so I was like so annoyed, and they rewrote every single scene except for one. The one where he explains his backstory about why he's never worked as an employee anywhere in his life.
Well,
so that's my influence from The Office UK. I don't really watch The Office UK anymore. I remember when they announced like the David Brent movie, because David Brent is the Micheal Scott of the UK version. And they finally came out, and I'm like, this movie is like 10 years too late. Like, they came out with a sequel to the David Brent character, but none of the cast of the original Office was in it, because apparently none of them like working with Ricky Gervais. Like, they're just Stephen Merchant, who's his friend who he's still worked with, but was never an actor on the original Office. So anyway, but I love let's talk about the American version again.
10 years too late, like Sin City 2. Or maybe, probably what's going to be 20 years too late, like Avatar 2. Right. Anybody looking forward to that? Nope, we all forgot. That's what I thought.
Exactly. So, I'm trying to think of anything else about the American Office that I felt like needed saying. We were kind of getting around to it, but like, yeah, so the first season is a little meaner. The first season of the American Office has a slightly meaner edge. Yeah. Because it's still shaking off that concept of the UK version. Because the UK version is mean at times, but it's really just more stark. Like, that's where the comedy comes from. It's a little bit more realistic. Sure, it's wacky in parts, but it's meant to be more realistic than maybe the US version was. But as they kind of like figured, oh, you know what it is? It's because like so many American shows end up becoming about family. Like that becomes the theme.
Right.
Like all these people in the office of the American version with Micheal Scott, they all end up realizing they're all family. Like they're friends to the point of being family. That's not the point of the original UK office, right? So that's not really the driving force of the first season or maybe season and a half of the US office. But then they start to realize, like, let's actually have these characters like each other, and let's have these characters like care about each other even if they drive each other crazy and pull pranks and do all kinds of like, you know, wild stuff at different points. But even as they figured out, let's make these characters more likable and let's make these characters more palatable, you know, even having like that anti-comedy and that awkward comedy, and it's one of the first things that really made awkward comedy like mainstream, I feel like, because so many other awkward styles of comedy were not popular overall for like American audiences. But I guess it's the power of the characters that they created for the US version that they could have these awkward comedy moments and people would enjoy them because they're like, oh, I feel bad because I love this character and I care about this character, so I want to see them get through this awkward funny moment, right? But still, despite that, for like, I don't know, like the first 4 seasons, there's still a lot of like
Holly,
that's her name.
Sorry.
there's still like racial stuff and like, you know, all kinds of like little things that you just wouldn't hear on the if they redid The Office now, you know what I mean? Like there's, I don't want to quote anything, but there's just, because out of context it seems totally out of place. But yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of like shocking jokes racially and stuff on like, even once the characters become way more likable and the characters overall are more palatable and the characters we know today, there's still so much stuff in those first couple of seasons that it's like too much. You know, another funny thing about sorry, you were talking.
I was just gonna say that Relient K should have covered Hunter, Jan's assistant's single.
Right.
That'd be great.
And I remember there's
be by the hand.
What was that? And what was that? Sexual attraction, or what was that? Remember, like they did. The Office had webisodes. They were basically like spin-offs with some of the cast.
Yes.
And in one of them they create a boy band, they create a pop band.
I almost said sexual seduction. That's not it. That's a Snoop Dogg song that came out around the same time. Whoa, yes. Oh my gosh.
But it's real deep cut because it wasn't in the aired episodes. It was a internet only spin-off.
Since most of the
It was okay, I had to look it up. It's called, the 2 songs were Subtle Sexuality and Male Prima Donna.
That's right. You're a male prima donna, but I can't help but want ya.
We would love it if you...
And these were later because this is what once Erin comes in.
Yeah.
So these are like really when The Office was really taking off, and I guess they couldn't make enough content and people wanted it all. Jessica's
an independent diva, but I still kind of need ya.
That's right. Jessica had this on her iPod and it would come up in the car sometimes.
I did.
Another funny... So, a couple other things that I think about when I think of this show is kind of contemporaneous it was to the time. Like, that's one other thing is, like, so many episodes are, like, this episode can only exist in the year it was made. Especially, like, they would reference, like, internet trends and they would recreate them around the Office.
Planking.
But it's,
nobody remembers planking.
Yeah, like literally The Office is the only place that it's like
parkour 5 years after parkour.
One time I tweeted like, it's too bad The Office isn't on the air anymore because now I don't know when internet trends have run their course. But it was also like locked in its time for even like the decisions they'd make production wise on the show. Because, like, Ed Helms' character was, I don't think he was really intended to be the mainstay he became. But I think it was Ed Helms' success with the Hangover movies. They were like, oh, you're a star now. We'll put you in the opening credits. You'll eventually become the boss that takes over for Micheal Scott. Like, you became a star aside from this show. Let's give you more. And then the same thing happens with Craig Robinson's character. right?
Yeah.
Because he starts in the early seasons, he's in the loading dock, the warehouse, and you only see him once in a while. And then Craig Robinson goes off and becomes a really successful star in movies and outside of The Office. So The Office is like, oh, let's give you a desk in the main floor so we see your character more.
Hot tub time machines, Zach and Mary make a porno.
that one was a little bit more successful than the other. But that's what I mean, is like, so the people who made The Office, like, they didn't really think of some of the evergreen elements, and like, I just doubt that like Craig Robinson and Ed Helms' characters would have become on the show what they became if those two actors didn't go off and have a successful movie career outside of The Office, that then the producers of The Office tried to not take advantage of, because I'm sure everyone wanted to be there, but it's like, you know, they had to prove themselves somewhere else. Like, you know, come on. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So that's The Office. So I'm wondering, you folks out there, what do you think of The Office? What's your favorite episode of The Office? Start yelling at your iPhones and your computers wherever you listen to this.
I thought you were going to say call 402-95-SADIE.
No. Just yell it out into the ether.
Oh, okay.
And we'll listen. Shh, let's listen.
Yeah.
That's a good one too, yeah. Okay.
Oh, that's also one of my favorites.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Keep doing this. Keep yelling out your favorite episodes while we go to our commercial break. And we'll be right back.
We want to thank you very much for listening to Sadie Hawkins Pod. Please follow us on Twitter and Instagram, which are both at Sadie Hawkins Pod. From there, you can interact with us, as well as view the videos and images we talk about on the show.
You can also call our voicemail line, which is 402-95-SADIE. That's 402-957-2343. Leave us a message and we can play it on a future episode.
Also, we invite you to check out SadieHawkinsPod.com, one simple place to get links to all our social media and a link to our TeePublic store.
There you can pick up merchandise, or merch as it's known in the industry. We have our Black Flag parody shirt, our little Sheet Boy ice cream shirt, and our all-new Boys from Canton ampersand shirts that list the first names of every album lineup of Relient K.
And if you can't get enough of us, well, good news. At patreon.com/SadieHawkinspod, we are releasing at least 2 bonus episodes a month. You'll also have access to our whole backlog, including our discussion of Owl City's Ocean Eyes, reading through the Complex Infrastructure book, and the songs from K is for Karaoke.
Finally, we want to thank our current patrons, who include Daniel, Josh, JR, Jarrett, Eric, Joel, Connor, Michael, Helen, Samantha, Roxanne, Jimmy Eat Pod, This Might Be a Podcast, Tucker, David, and Brady.
We hope to see you there, and even if we don't, we hope that you will keep us in positive regard.
Aww.
What's up, listeners of Sadie Hawkins Pod? I hope you're having a blessed day and enjoying the hot takes from Danny and Jessica.
Brian, do you mind if I say something?
Go ahead, for you are a valiant man and bring good news.
Thanks, man. Hey, I just wanted to remind everyone of my favorite scripture, Fentuzler 3:16. For the Zeitgeist Lab pods so love their fellow man that they proselytize their only begotten opinions about community and drive-thru records into the world.
A very blessed scripture.
Of course. And everyone listening to the Sadie Hawkins Pod can check out the Zeitgeist Lab Collections Pod first 2 seasons, wherever fine podcasts are found.
That's right, and we'll be back with Collection 3 soon.
Again, that's Zeitgeist Lab Collections Podcast, available on Apple, Spotify, and anywhere else fine podcasts are found.
So, in talking about The Office, we didn't really talk about the theme song, but iconic, fun, no lyrics. And then Relient K decides to basically do a cover of it for, I think, like, they were doing it almost every show for this 2-year period of, like, 2007, 2008. But then they would do it on and off again at different stuff, at different times. Like, they did it a couple times on the Best Tour Ever, and they did it as late as 2013. Is that when the Best Tour Ever was? Well, whatever. The Best Tour, whatever. So then they go and they add extra lyrics. And I DM'd John Schneck, and he basically said, don't quote me on anything I'm saying. So I'm not quoting him on this. but he feels like it was basically that they were kind of goofing around in a sound check one time, and that Thiessen wrote the song on stage. As we know, he's inclined to write songs on the fly. We've seen it in the Where the Buffalo and Cell Phone Roam webisodes back from Brian and Dave being in the band. That there's a scene in that web series where he just sits at a piano and just writes a song right there. So that's something that Thiessen does. So he might have improvised it at something like that if he didn't write it beforehand, and then they were just like, this feels like something we can start doing on stage. This is how Schneck kind of remembers it, but he was saying his memories are very fallible, so not to completely trust that that's exactly what it was.
Oh, sorry, that's me. Oops.
Jessica's phone started being haunted.
Well, I was just pulling up the lyrics to the Relient K version of the song.
And you can kind of tell if you go and listen to that made-up song on the Where the Buffalo and Cell Phone Roam thing, where he's talking about your phone minutes, is like, hey, thanks for watching. Thiessen basically writes a song in that webisode show. He's like, thanks for watching our little webisode series, and then he sings a little song about your phone carrier and hope in your data and your minutes and stuff. And like that song has a this very similar style to the original lyrics, the kind of made up improvised tone that Thiessen is likely to make when he just makes up a song on the spot.
Yeah.
Which is comprised of the following lyrics.
Micheal Scott, Pam and Jim, you've got me glued to my television. Angela, you're way too cute to be messing around with someone like Dwight Schrute. Relient K and the Football Hall of Fame are in Canton. Won't someone please transfer us to Scranton? We just wasted 1 minute and 57 seconds of the show.
Well, that's funny that what website is this that put these lyrics up?
Officialtally.com.
Odd.
Which is only there because I put it here for the comment section.
Gotcha. So, a little thing there is that they played this song throughout the summer of, I think, like 2008 or 7, right? I can actually I didn't look at the dates on the YouTube videos that I pulled, but around then. They did not throw in crayons at the end in the original performances. That's something they started to do towards the end of them playing this song. So once they kind of get back from the summer of doing like festivals and stuff, and they're back into when you start looking at the YouTube videos where they're in clubs again later in the year, probably in 2008 or something, that's when at the end they toss in a parody version of crayons where they say we just wasted a minute of the show. They throw that in there, but they didn't do that all the time.
Oh, okay. So this person must have edited this page, because down in the comments are from like 2007. So Cash Baskets on November 4th 2007 said, they did this song at an October 18th concert that I went to. I could hear shouts of I love Pam Beasley over the music. It was amazing. Barry on November 4th, 2007 said, now I'm not a huge Relient K fan, but that just bumped them up a notch or 3.
Oh, I put the original lyrics in my notes as well. I forgot because I did these notes 2 weeks ago. One other thing that's funny is that in all the YouTube, I watched just about every live version of this on YouTube. After a while, I would only listen to a second because basically I was trying to find the best quality version to edit into the episode, into our podcast, and they would change up the lyrics. And Angela, you're way too cute to be messing around with someone like Dwight Schrute. They would change messing around to hanging out and I think the more Christian venues and more Christian shows.
Not just when they weren't together.
Well, I don't know.
They base it on whether Angela and Dwight were together in
at
this
the time.
episodes.
I remember, and we saw this song played live.
Yeah.
At RevGen in New Jersey, and I found your video. Jessica uploaded it at the time.
Yeah, it was like 2009, and I put it on YouTube then.
And I remember being kind of confused. I actually remember being in the crowd, hearing them do this original song about The Office that ends with the actual theme song, and feeling a little surprised that anybody thought Angela was cute. Because she's a very...
Rude, Danny.
No. Please just understand, I'm not talking about the actress. I'm just talking about the character.
Right.
And the way the character presents herself. I understand she's an attractive lady. I don't know the actress's name.
They picked the super Christian one.
Is she Christian in real life? Oh no, the Christian
I meant the character.
Oh right, but it's it's funny because she's not like she's like a flawed character. Mm-hmm. Like she's very like staunch and conservative, but then like the joke is that like she's actually kind of freaky and stuff. You know what I mean? Like that's the joke. Like with Dwight, like I'm not kidding.
You're kind of freaky.
Whatever. I guess I just wasn't into that kind of type, like the bun, like the hair tied back, acting like, you know, like a librarian type or like right. A secretary who's like secretly kind of, you know, down.
Are you saying that I'm not the naughty librarian type, Dan?
You're not.
What about when I wear my glasses?
No, then you're more like a secretary than a librarian.
I feel kind of like offended by that, maybe.
Why would you want to look like a librarian when you wear glasses?
Because, I mean, no offense to secretaries, but it feels like, you know, librarians are really studious, so you just automatically think they're smarter. That's not to say secretaries aren't smart. Secretaries are totally smart. I've seen 9 to 5.
Yeah, secretaries are go-getters.
I guess that's true. All right.
Angela Kinsey is the actress's name, so I guess her character was also called Angela. Just like how Creed...
A bunch of them are.
Yeah.
Like all the background characters, their first names are just their actual first names.
It's probably... I wonder if it was done that way for the sake of improvising. Like, let's just make this easier on ourselves for all the improvising that's done on that show. It's like if the character's name is the actor's name, then there's no chance of saying the wrong name. You know what I mean?
Oscar's name.
Oscar is Oscar, but Creed Barton is the one that's like it's literally his name. That's his name. That's his first and his last name.
Well, that is what he looks like, a Creed Barton.
Right. Oh, and we didn't talk about BJ Novak. And that's scam.
And he just started waving his hands around.
Because I was just looking at the cast. Because we talk about this all the time. Like, BJ Novak was a producer on the show. So he must have, like, somehow been like, well, obviously I'm going to be in the theme song and, like, an above-the-line credit, right? But he doesn't do anything on the show. And he's far from... He does some stuff. He has some stories throughout the show. But he's nothing like... any of the other characters. He, over the course of the show, he does the least. He has the least interesting stories. And the annoying aspects of his character seem to mirror that of the annoying aspects of BJ Novak as a person, as like a celebrity. So it's just so ridiculous when you watch the theme song and they say like, I don't know all these actors' names.
Danny, like, hates BJ Novak.
I don't hate him. I just...
like,
no,
you've
just
been
obnoxious.
having this rant for, like, ever.
So you're watching the opening credits, and they're like... And it shows the main cast. Steve Carell, Jenna Fisher, John Krasinski. You're like, yeah, these characters are in every episode. They have full, long stories. And then BJ Novak, you're like, what? Like, there's whole swaths of episodes where he's gone. Like, there's no reason for him to be in the opening credits.
I don't know what his background is, like, as an individual. I'll have to look into that sometime. So, over on my deep dive, I have an alt press article called The 8 Most Baffling Cover Songs We Heard at Warped Tour This Summer, from August 18th, 2008.
That's funny. Yeah, so they did play this a bunch on Warped Tour, so I'm guessing like on Warped Tour they said messing around more often than they said it at Christian festivals.
So on this list, we have the Agrolites covering the Beatles' Don't Bring Me Down.
That makes sense. I could totally hear like a reggae version. No, I think the Agrolites have... I think that's a recorded track that they've done.
We have the Randys covering Fugazi's Waiting Room.
Okay.
Real Big Fish covering Metallica's Enter Sandman.
That's funny because Mighty Mighty Boss Tones have a studio cover of Enter Sandman that's not ska. Like, they just made a straight-ahead cover of Enter Sandman.
Interesting. Ludo covering Faith No More's Epic.
Okay.
I don't know who any of those are. Pierce the Veil covering Michael Jackson's Beat It.
Interesting.
This one, Angel and Airwaves covering Blink-182's Reckless Abandon. What? That's not... Why is that bizarre or whatever? Like, that
makes complete
perfect
sense.
Okay, sure. Gym Class Heroes covering Lamb of God's Laid to Rest. Relient K covering the theme song from The Office. Matt Thiessen and co. are as quirky as piano-pounding pop punkers can really get, but they also take their craft incredibly seriously. When their set was nearly washed out by a freak storm in Scranton this summer, they regrouped with this gem as soon as the sun came back out. Talk about an absolute bizarre and unforgettable warped moment.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. Oh, that reminds me that Schneck did say something to the effect of, like, he thinks it came together around the time of them playing in Pennsylvania. He didn't seem to remember if it was in Scranton.
Gotcha.
He said could have been Scranton or near Scranton. So it sounds like, putting the context clues together from this, maybe they really did put it together just for Scranton, and they said, let's keep this in the set.
Then we have the Wiki Wand for the Appetite for Construction tour, which was from 2007. And it was a 3-month 2007 concert tour that was co-headlined by rock bands Switchfoot and Relient K with special guest Ruth. The tour was unique in that none of the bands involved were touring to push a new album or single. They embarked on the tour to benefit Habitat for Humanity and donated $1 per ticket sold to the organization. At the end of the tour, the bands had raised over $100,000 for Habitat. And then if we scroll down a little bit, Relient K was the first of the headlining acts to perform, with their set usually lasting about an hour and a half. The set list featured hits like Be My Escape and Who I Am Hates Who I've Been from their 2004 breakout record, as well as some of their older classics and newer songs. The band did not perform an encore, playing all their songs in one set. The band also routinely covered the theme from the hit TV show The Office. For the dance floor favorite Sadie Hawkins dance, the band usually brought up people from the audience to play guitar and percussion instruments for the end of the song.
Who are they? Green Day? That's what Green Day famously.
Really?
I'm sure a lot. Yeah, but I'm sure a lot of bands do that. But Green Day's kind of maybe the biggest one right now that is known to do that all the time. So it must have been that Habitat for Destruction, or whatever that tour.
Habitat for Construction.
Habitat for Construction tour that there's a bunch of YouTube videos of, and that might be where they threw in crayons at the end.
This is a blog, ericnovak21.wordpress.com, but this is Zachary Horner saying what he thinks that Relient K's best songs are, and he ranked the theme song from The Office as number 12.
Interesting.
Then, songs that will make you want to visit Cleveland. I don't think there's a single song out there that could possibly make me want to visit Cleveland, but sure.
What about that Dave Douglas song? It's like the Cleveland used it for their tourism commercial.
Here we go. 10 songs that'll want to make you visit Cleveland from contentmarketingworld.com. So I'm going to scroll down. The first one they mention is My Ex's Best Friend by Machine Gun Kelly. And I'm like, but I don't think that he talks about Ohio or Cleveland in that. He talks about New York. So, or at least he mentions it. They've got the Black Keys, Huey Lewis and the News, Cleveland Rocks, Heaven on Dirt are on here. And then Forgetting Not Slow Down is number 11 on their playlist. Not about Cleveland or
and
Ohio.
They weren't even living in Cleveland anymore by then.
So, not so sure any of these songs come through. Then I've got a blog, and stop me if we've read this one before, but I feel like we haven't, and I don't think it has anything to do with The Office.
Okay.
But it's called Could Have Been a Contender instead of a bum. It on the waterfront. July 2013, Career Best, Relient K. Career Best will be a feature where I look back on the career of one of my favorite artists and walk through their best albums and songs. I shouldn't like Relient K. Their style of music is one that I usually loathe. And then there's an asterisk after that, but I'm not going to scroll down and find out what that is yet. That pop-punk style that dominated popular rock music in the 2000s can occasionally make me want to hurl, which is a word I probably haven't uttered out loud since the 2000s.
Hurl?
So you should, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I get it.
So you can see...
I didn't get that at first.
So you can see what even talking about this music is doing to me. When you look up Relient K's music on iTunes, listeners apparently also bought Blink-182, Fall Out Boy, Jack's Mannequin, and the All-American Rejects, all bands that I've sworn to hate, with the possible exception of FOB, which I'm more ambivalent to than anything. But I do like Relient K. I love Relient K, and I fell in love with them at college after I had already discovered bands such as Radiohead or The Hold Steady or Fleet Foxes, and thought I was above such pop trite. But then my wife, girlfriend at the time, introduced me to their music. Whole albums beyond just the hit single Be My Escape, which was the only song of theirs I really knew. And I didn't start to like them just because she liked them. Once she gave me their CDs, we talked about them maybe 3 times afterwards. It's not like I fell in love with Relient K because I was falling in love with her, though I was falling in love with her. Relient K just proved to be far more than any of those other pop punk bands. They were a legitimate band, and band is italicized. A group that grew past their original sound to try out other ways of expressing themselves. A group that wrote lyrics about more than one thing and even about more than one category of things. A group that felt as complicated as I did. It also helped that they were a Christian band, because that meant they tended to write about subjects that I inherently related to. Matt Thiessen wrote about the weight of sin, the hardness of forgiveness, hypocrisy, and hateful churches. Sometimes he was more direct about it than others, but he was always smart about it. There was artsy to his cleverness that other pop-punk bands and other Christian bands didn't have. When Thiessen turned a phrase, you knew you were hearing something unique, a level of wit you wouldn't hear from anyone else. I'm writing in the past tense because...
What?
I'm writing in the past tense not now because they're not making music anymore. They actually just put out an album in June and it was okay. If Relient K used to be on the opposite side of the road from those other pop-punk bands, Collapsible Lung brought them closer to the double yellow lines. But nevertheless, their discography stands on its own as proof that there was a band that made pop-punk sound not only listenable but great. Hopefully someday they'll make another album to stand with these albums. Till then, here's their best albums. The best songs will come on Thursday. And then the asterisks where they said loathe might be too strong of a word, maybe just despise. Feel like those are equal.
Yeah. That would not have been worth scrolling all the way down in the middle of the article, then scrolling back.
And then they just have their opinions on each album. So, yeah.
Okay. Whatever.
So what do you have this week?
Well, I have... So this song, I didn't deep dive... This would have been your job.
Oh,
I didn't
one last thing.
Into who recorded the original theme song version. Were they session people?
Yeah.
Were they a real band? They're called the Scrantones, but that just seems like a fake band name just for that one song.
Right. So I did find a site with covers, but when I hit the play button on the first one, I got a pop-up, and I'm pretty sure my phone has virus now. So, unfortunately, I can't bring those to the table.
Okay, well, I did find a couple of things like that. We didn't play the actual song, but I think if everyone should pretty much know, this is the Office theme song right here.
It is?
So that's fun. Everybody knows that. Or do they? For those of you that don't know it, there it is. I'm trying to remember what the Office UK theme song sounded like right now. That's right.
Oh, wow. not nearly as iconic.
Not as catchy and not as iconic, but still like a similar thing. It's almost like they took the original Office theme and the theme
made it peppier.
Yeah. The theme sequence is exactly the same for both shows. Like, when they went to make the U.S. theme sequence, they did the exact same thing as the U.K. had already done. They just get these ambient shots.
They're only doing the same kind of general stuff as well.
Yeah.
At least in the first season.
Right. So, apparently there's a full-length version. There's, like, a longer version. There's a 2.5-minute version of the song. How many more times can I say version?
Oh, wow. This sounds like it should be on Birds and B-sides. Like the bees buzzing.
Yeah. This is... They do sound like bees, but I don't know. Is that like some sort of moogie synth that is like tuned oddly? It never kind of occurred to me that this is kind of basically a pop rock song. It's not like the UK version that we just listened to for a second. That's kind of like a jazzy piano thing. And they took the same kind of jazzy piano-ness, but they put in this like pop rock, sort of post-90s pop rock sense. So it kind of makes a lot of sense that a pop punk band could and would cover this song. Okay, so according to Dunderpedia, which is the Wikia for The Office, the Scrantones, who recorded the theme song, consist of Bob Thiesel on guitar and his friends Dylan O'Brien on piano, Brian McLeod on drums, and Hale Craigan on bass. And these guys together who like recorded and created the theme song to the show, apparently they play the band in the Booze Cruise episode.
Oh, that's cool. I was going to ask if Bob was Bob Vance from Vance Refrigeration, but I guess not.
Apparently, I mean, there's not a lot of information in this Dunderpedia thing, but I'm getting the sense now that they were just like, they just came together in a session to create the theme song, and that was kind of it, because it says there was no group name when they performed the theme song for The Office.
Yeah,
but it was later that they named themselves the Scrantones in the episode Booze Cruise. So retroactively, the theme song is known as being performed by the Scrantones, since apparently it was the same musicians who played the band in that episode. So there you go. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so that's interesting that there's a full-length version and to figure out that history. So here's a couple of themes. Here's a couple of covers, and then we'll get to Relient K. Here's a couple of... let me see. We'll just do this one. Here's a TikTok where this person did the theme song in 10 genres. This might be the only non-Relient K cover that we play. So this is a 1-minute video of... I don't know if it is the person, because sometimes when TikToks are found on YouTube, it might not be the actual person who made the TikTok. But this is Omar Al Hassan, The Office theme in 10 different genres, uploaded 1 year ago. So this says number 1, original. It says country. This says pop. But this is like
club.
Pop.
Electronic.
Yeah, pop is too. This says punk. Jazz. Yeah, this is jazz.
I like it.
Rap/trap. Reggae. Chiptune.
Nice.
Blues. And metal. And he did all this from his bathroom.
Sick.
Or at least he recreated the visuals in the bathroom. So that's pretty interesting. That's fun. That's a thing people do, huh?
That's awesome. That was really cool.
Artificial Fear did a power metal version, but we just heard a little bit of a metal version. Bitty Me Music, like Bitty Me Music, they did like a MIDI, sort of orchestral MIDI version. Someone named Matt did an 8-bit cover, but we just heard an 8-bit cover. So here's another important cover that we need to play of, not relating to Relient K. This is Ska-Tune Network with the Ska-Fest from 4 years ago. Nice. And please subscribe to Ska-Tune Network at youtube.com. So there are those covers. Now let's move on to Relient K specifically. Here is your video of the song. We haven't actually played the song, so let's listen to your version and let's see how this holds up. This is uploaded by Jessica.Harcourt 11 years ago with 209 views.
Oh,
Jessica says Relient K covers the theme song to the American version of The Office with their own opening lyrics.
Facts.
Pam and Jim, you television, Angela, you're way too cute to be hanging out.
Did you have an iPhone at the time?
Of course.
Okay.
We both got first generation iPhones. But I am trying to think if video would have been on iPhone by this time. This is awful. I'll just take it down. It's so unnecessary. There's so many other versions out there.
There was definitely because I guess when you got the first couple months of iPhone, there wasn't video yet, right?
I don't think there was a video until 3.
Well, we definitely had iPhones with video at RevGen because I took video of the Supertones reunion, which was just happening at the time, and uploaded those to YouTube.
Then that's what it is.
Yeah. I think it sounds awesome. Listen to this. Listen to this fidelity. Fidelity matters. Listen to this.
iPhones. Apple has they just continue to be the inferior product. And yet we all still buy them. Why?
So here's one where we'll play this one because we need to let's hear that. We don't play the song that we talk about on the show, but we should this time because I'm sure a lot of people listening to us 3 hours into the podcast don't even know what we're talking about. So here's the entirety of Relient K playing this song. So this is uploaded by ILVJTCJD 13 years ago. The Office theme song in Berry Center, Houston, Texas, 2007.
You guys like football down here, right? I'm not gonna ask what teams. I'll probably say Texas A&M, I'll get all booed. Josh, do you know if they're winning or not? He doesn't even know. I'm a fan. Alright, here's a song. Micheal Scott, Pam and Jim, you got me glued to the television. Angela, you're way too cute to be messing around with someone like Dwight Schrute, Relient K, and the Football Hall of Famer for Kim. That's what I told you about. Will someone please transfer us to Scranton?
You're talking about. Mine was so much better than this.
Well, now it sounds bad because the band all joins in together and it's so the second half doesn't sound good, but let's get a good sounding. Oh, that's right, I have. I don't know what that was about. I forgot that I have YouTube Premium for a month, so I closed the app and it didn't stop. And I'm like, what's going on? So this one's uploaded by a Sheila H. And 12 years ago, the Office theme song at Wonderland, June 27th. And whatever Wonderland is, maybe that's some sort of festival. And I'm going to skip ahead just to the Office theme song part.
I wish someone would just transfer us to Stanton.
And on that version, that the main melody is being played by Hoops, doing some of that shredding.
Yeah, nice.
But in a lot of the other tours, once this was played in in clubs and stuff, Derek from the Evan Anthem played the melodica, came out and played the melodica a bunch. Actually,
cool.
This is another outdoor show. But someone would come out and play the melodica at a bunch of different shows, in the second year of them doing this in the set. So here's a version from Warped Tour, August 2008 in Carson, California, where the guy from the Evan Anthem comes out to play the melodica for the Office theme song part.
I wish someone would just transfer us to Scranton. Go to Under Mifflin, right?
So there's a version with melodica in comparison to when
nice.
Otherwise Hoops would kind of shred that melody out. So yeah, there's tons and tons of versions of this, and I'll share sort of the best sounding and best looking ones on our social media in the next week. But there are 2 covers of the Relient K specific version. And there's no other, sort of fan videos. So we'll end with these 2 covers. This is someone on YouTube called Sycamore, Sycamore. And this is a full band cover of the Relient K specific version.
Micheal Scott, Pam and Jim, you got me glued to my television. And Angela, you're way too cute to be messing around with someone like Dwight Schrute. Please Panda and the Football Hall of Famer in Canton. I wish someone would transfer us to Scranton.
I really like that. I love those drums.
Yeah, that was good. And then, there's obviously sort of changes there.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the Relient K version, pretty much when they performed it live, was always just simple piano for the original lyrics.
Right.
And then the full band comes in. And even when the full band comes in here, there's still this kind of pop punk
yeah, it's
this
really
thing.
good. I love it.
So there's a little extra transforming here. And so Sycamore, and what was the lyric they changed? They took out the word
They took out Relient K and changed it to something else.
someone like Dwight Schrute. Please Panda and the Football Hall of Famer.
Please Panda?
Please Panda or Police Panda?
Police Panda? Because I don't understand. It says it's Sycamore Pop Punk. It says, go to our YouTube, go to our Bandcamp and Spotify. So whatever Please Panda is. Oh, Lee's Panda. They put the lyrics up. Lees, apostrophe with an apostrophe. Lee's Panda. Whatever Lee's Panda is. I'm sure that's some sort of inside joke that nobody's... I don't know. So they wrote, please read before commenting about Relient K. Happy face. Relient K wrote this way back in the day. Oh, and this is from 2015, this cover. I didn't have any part in writing this whatsoever. I simply loved it when I heard them play it live, and I was always confused on why they never recorded it throughout the years because I thought it was so good. So I decided to have some fun with my producer, Eric Tuftsdam. And Eric Tuftsdam is in quotation marks, since we're both huge fans of the show, and cover it. Once again, I didn't have any part in writing this. I only covered it out of respect, and I tried to do my best to do it justice. Thank you for reading this, and I hope you have a great day. Right. I like how it ends like a cover letter.
Thank you for taking the time to read over this resume.
Yeah.
And I look forward to hearing from you.
It feels like they must have added that later because, like, the fact that the video is called The Office Theme Song Pop Punk Cover, written by Relient K, cover by Sycamore, it must have confused a lot of people who had no idea this Relient K song was ever performed live. Right. So they added that first part to the beginning of the YouTube description. But here's their original YouTube description. Here's a little cover I did a couple years back. Just for fun, nothing more. The Office is my favorite show of all time, and I wanted to give something back for them making me feel not so alone. I sing softer than normal just because I felt it fits more that way. I might redo it one of these days. I'm not sure. So there's that. And then there's 46 comments. I don't know if any comments in here are like, what do you mean Relient K? Like, people probably thought this was like a, crediting Sum 41 or Blink-182 for a song they didn't do, or
Maybe.
Weird Al Yankovic. All this is just like, wow, and 100 emojis, and Relient K wrote this, and this is awesome. Holy shit, this is amazing. This sounds like an anime opening. This is amazing.
So maybe his original thing didn't credit Relient K, and so he had to update the thing later because he got enough comments that was like, this was written by Relient K.
And then this one is uploaded by NHEGER1. And this is their cursed 12 years ago, 2009. So this is closer to the source of when it happened. A cover of Relient K's cover of the Office theme. If you want the harmonica part, which is melodica, they wrote harmonica though, you're going to have to whistle it. And then they give the lyrics. So one comment, hey, this is great. Gotta love the old school Relient K shirt. Oh, and he's wearing the Relient K penguin green shirt that you own as well. So here's this only other cover of Relient K's version of The Office.
Let's kick it.
Well, they're really dragging out the intro.
I was gonna say, do we get to the lyrics?
I just realized this version is a minute and 41 seconds.
Oh, wow.
So it's like extra slow.
Micheal Scott, Pam and Jim, you got me glued to my television. And Angela, way too cute to be messing around with someone like Dwight Schrute, Relient K, and the Football Hall of Fame, Iron Canton.
This is also an educational song. It's reminding you that Relient K and the Football Hall of Fame are in Canton.
Exactly.
Someone please transfer us to Scranton.
So then the original theme song part is kind of pointless because it's just that same underlying piano thing without the melody on top.
Who knew the boys from Canton were from Canton?
That's a really good point. I wonder what the best band from Scranton is, because they should be called the Boys from Scranton. And then you could have the Boys from Canton versus the Boys from Scranton. I mean...
It's Scrantonicity.
And the Scrantones, of course. Yeah. And what was the name of Subtle Sexuality was the name of the girl group. They were a girl group. I don't know why I thought they were a boy group. It's the two it's Mindy
Kaling. Ed
Helms
pops in one of them, and I think BJ Novak pops in the other.
Man, I wonder, I'm trying to look up, according to the Bash, the top 40 bands from Scranton. It looks like they're just... This list is all just like local bands. Oh, no, this is like one of those things. It's like local bands, like 40 local bands that you can like book for like your wedding or whatever. So this doesn't really count. So I'm trying to figure out who are the boys from Scranton. I was just thinking, like, if you're a real musician from Scranton, like, do you just live in the shadow of the Scrantones and they're not even like a real band? So instead I'm going to famous people from Scranton, and then I'll just scroll until I see a musician. The number one most famous person from Scranton, current president of the United States, Joe Biden. I did not realize that. Yes. Scorpio like me is Joe Biden. 6 foot like me. Hugh Glass, like, who died in 1833. I guess some famous adventurer or something. I don't know who that is. His name is also Hugh Glass, which sounds like a Bart Simpson.
It does. I was thinking that.
I'm scrolling past people who are like, you know, writers and fashion people and another writer. And okay, this has got to be a musician.
Hugh Glass.
Yeah.
Isn't anyone here Hugh Glass?
Yeah. Exactly. So Chris Motionless, according to what is this called? TheFamousPeople.com, is number 13 most famous person from Scranton, Pennsylvania. It's Chris Motionless, and that is the lead singer of Motionless in White, an American heavy metal band from Scranton, Pennsylvania. They look like the kind of band that would have been playing... I've never heard of this band, but they look like the kind of metalcore band that would be playing with Relient K when they were playing this.
Sure.
They're metalcore, gothic metal, industrial metal, alternative metal, new metal.
Sick.
Yeah. Roadrunner Records. So, never heard of Motionless in White, but apparently those are the boys from Scranton. So... The boys, Canton versus Scranton, Motionless in White, I hope don't have a controversy section on their page. And versus Relient K. Sorry, I'm still looking at other famous people. Who's less famous than Chris Motionless? Gene Kerr, famous author who died in 2003, was born in 1922. I don't know where this is going, but I'm still scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Megan McCarthy, YouTuber, born in 1991, Sagittarius. She's the 17th most famous person from Scranton. So I feel like I'm now stuck in this situation where I'm like, what is going on? What is this? So let's finally, for real, let's end by finding out who is Hugh Glass, the second most famous person from Scranton. Also, by the way, until Joe Biden, I mean, I assume by the time he was vice president, Joe Biden would overtake Hugh Glass. But if it wasn't for the fact that Joe Biden exists, Hugh Glass would be the most famous person from Scranton, Pennsylvania. Hugh Glass was an American frontiersman, fur trapper, trader, hunter, and explorer. He is best known for his story of survival and forgiveness after being left for dead by companions when he was mauled by a grizzly bear. He's the guy that's the basis of the Revenant.
Oh, wow.
The real life Revenant guy is the second most famous person from Scranton, Pennsylvania.
I can see that now.
Do they ever, man, if The Office ever has that reunion that they talk about every 3 or 4 years, if they ever have it, they got to do a thing about the real life Revenant guy because he's from Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Amazing.
So there it is. We figured it out.
Well, Dan, do you like the song more or less or the same?
Oh, yeah, that's before? The thing we do. Thank you. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, the same. Like, because it's still a YouTube video. It's not like it's easy to put it in rotation or anything. So just the same.
I like it more because it continues to live on in my memory.
Aw, well, that's nice.